today with episode 3 of the CSFL podcast videocast, and today we're back to talk about all the various things that are going on in the CSFL, and we've got some key topics of interest to talk about. And of course, it's not going to just be me ranting on the mic for about an hour or so. I'm of course joined by our regular, I can say now after 3 episodes, Josh, the Titans GM. Josh, glad to have you back on.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. And it's pretty cool to be a regular. I'm actually really enjoying this game. 20 is very well done as compared to the basketball games of the past that I played. So I'm just trying to immerse myself in the whole league, and I'm having a good time so far.
That's great. It's great, and you are a regular. I mean, you're basically you've got your own seat now, so you've got to keep it up for the rest of the season. Go a full 16-0 through the episodes.
Oh man! All right, I think I can manage. I think I can make it as long as we keep communicating about the scheduling. And I'm actually glad that we can liven it up. It's not just the two of us this time.
No, and it's not just the two of us this time. We are joined by Jean, aka Sizzling Popcorn, the Bills GM, the one of the GMs who has had a good start so far, Jean, haven't you, in the league? And you're kind of putting us all to shame, especially me and Josh, I'd have to say.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how I'm 5-2. I was expecting a lot worse, knowing the in real life history of the team. But yeah, it's great to be here with you guys. I guess we're now called the Losers Club. We all lost in the last game, but yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
that's a good name for it.
The Losers Club, fantastic. Perhaps I should rename the episode CSFL episode 3 Losers Club. See if that gets any views from the league, but we'll see. I mean, I guess what first time on, so let's spend some time having a chat with you, really. So you've obviously taken over the Bills. Is that your team in real life, or was it you just really wanted a challenge?
It's actually the Patriots, but Rizzo had already taken them, so I was like, I can go with another division. I was like, no, I want those Bills, because also knowing the history in 2010, I was like, I want to change that around, and make them change the history of the team. So
gotta respect taking a challenge.
Yeah, because I've played like OTP, the Park Baseball, and I've been in leagues where I was like Oakland A's. But the thing here is your owner doesn't really constrain your budget like in baseball, because I'd have Oakland A's, you'd have like what, $60-70 million to run your team when you're facing the Yankees at they're at 200. So here it's based on the cap, and that's it. So that's good.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the great things about this engine is that you don't have owners sort of restricting on how much you can spend by location or by team. But so I guess obviously you're a Patriots fan in real life. So is this a case of sort of an unintended rivalry that you want to beat your own team and take that division title away from them?
Yeah, that's my challenge.
And it's a tough challenge, I have to say, looking at the Patriots roster in this era. Oh my goodness! But you're putting up a good fight so far.
Well, it'll be a fair fight in about 2 more seasons, is what it looks like.
Yeah, because I just gave up a little bit on the defense to pick up Adrian Peterson, so I got three rushers, which Freddie Jackson is more so fullback and a part-time receiver, but trying to get, I'd rather outscore the other team than to have just be defensive and not be able to score.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
I was going to say, I think
I said
Josh
in the
can
last.
relate to this. So,
Well, yeah, I said in the last pod. The most important thing. I hate to say it, it's a cliche. Is you got to put points on the board. Like you got to be able to score. And no matter how good your defense is, if you're only getting 1 or 2 touchdowns a game, it puts you in a really bad predicament when you're going against any of these contending teams. So I thought that Adrian Peterson move was just fantastic. And I'm sorry to burn it, but I just had to get that out. That was a fantastic trade. You have what is it? Just 2 of the top 5 rated running backs in the league. So
Yep.
Way to go for it.
And it helps out Cleesby and the Lions. Don't have to face them again.
Yeah. Well, they're kept. I mean, there's that team is. I don't want to downplay what you're doing over there, Cleesby, but it still feels like you're overperforming. But best is just the combination of ratings just makes him that much better, despite him not being one of the top 10 rated running backs, even though he is like was it like a 91, 92?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's having a great rookie season, and don't worry, I'm definitely going to talk about him later. I've got a whole paragraph ready for that. For those who are not wondering what that's going to be about, you have to stay on and watch and listen to hear all about that. But yeah, I mean, it's a bit, obviously you're doing really well with the Bills, and the Patriots are the team to beat in the league. But just coming back to the Peterson deal, I mean, the one thing that I wanted to ask you coming on today really was, so obviously you gave up, it was a fair amount I felt for Peterson, but was there any concern about the contract query? Because obviously I think he's on a 1-year deal, isn't he, if I remember rightly?
Yeah.
So is it a case of possibly a bit of a gamble that he might walk in free agency, or are you going to try and lock him up before that?
There's always the franchise tag I could put on him. And I'm not too sure about that if it's based on this year's salary, the top salary from this year, or if it's based off of the highest paid next season. But
even if it is, I've as someone who's been already paying very close attention to my cap, there's not that many that are going to be signing in free agency who are super highly rated anyway. So the market should stay suppressed for at least just from what I've looked, maybe 2 seasons on running backs. So
yeah, because I took out that earlier this week about the cap, like just wondering like what's going on with the cap. Is it going to go up by 1%, 3%? But I've started looking at my salary a lot more, and now starting to be more conscious about the how many years on the contracts, because a lot of these guys, Peterson, he wants like almost like 18 million if you resign him, and it's like okay, that's like more than he's ever had in real life.
yeah. No, I completely agree with that. That's why I've mentioned a few times. I thought that something that I noticed early on, and I'm sure people did, but I was a lot more aggressive about it. I went around and tried, even though it cost me some picks. Even with those, I wanted to try to get as many of these small 3-4 year contracts that are actually really quality, highly rated guys as I could before this even becomes if it is an issue, if it's not an issue, is it going up, if it's staying the same, before any of that even happens. I figured that was my best way to make sure I kept Andre Johnson and Chris Johnson, was to make sure every other position was someone that was highly rated but very lowly paid. So hopefully I can make this run. I can run with the same roster for hopefully at least 2 or 3 seasons before I have to start really even biting the bullet on other things and trying to search for market inefficiencies and such.
Yeah, so it's an interesting additional dynamic to this league. So I guess, I mean, I'm going to talk from an admin point of view here, but I guess from that point of view, I guess with an online sim league, you have a balance as a sort of as an admin and looking at it. I guess on the one hand, you want enough players to be available in free agency, regardless of what kind of sim league you're running, so that there's always something of interest, and there's always something that generates people to try and look at free agency and be engaged through the off season, not just in the draft, but in other aspects of it. But obviously on the other side of it, you don't want too many players jumping into free agency all the time, because then you'll just have like teams completely changing all over the course of a season basically. And I think the difficulty you have with this engine was that when we created the players and the personnel and did all the ratings and moderating for it, the engine automatically assigns a lot of players to 1 year deals when you create basically a league from scratch, which is something that you can't really control very effectively, other than going and editing and clearing off hundreds and hundreds of players and readjusting all their contracts. And obviously that's not necessarily fair, because there might be players who are on longer term deals who are really cheap and players who aren't. So basically, I think what Rizzo tried to do with this is he tried to balance it out across the teams, which means that this first free agency is going to be a bit more of a plethora of players across different ratings. But you should see over the next couple of years it'll moderate itself out. So that's the difficulty you have, and I think that's the where GMs who have joined have seen, oh my goodness, I've got 30 players who are all expiring this year, and they all want huge salaries. And it's you have to accept it's going to be for one year, possibly 2 years, as the league starts to sort of balance out and GMs become established. So but just coming back to the Peterson point, it's really interesting.
I trust you guys to test it.
Yeah, we tested like 30, 40 seasons on different ratings and different contracts. So it's been tested. Just bear with us, I guess, for this. And if there are major things that need to be adjusted, I'm sure Rizzo and Dylan will consider that in the off season or in a couple of seasons' time. So, first season is always the interesting one, because there's just a huge amount of guys on 1 year contracts. So we'll see how that plays out.
And I appreciate you guys being willing to have a public conversation about it, because there's no harm in just pointing out different people's thoughts. And maybe there was something that we caught that you got there was a slim chance that maybe you guys hadn't thought about that. So I appreciate you guys being having a reasonable discourse, because that doesn't happen quite often these days. And it's kind of on us as well to kind of just have a little bit of faith in. In about a month, we'll know either it works or it doesn't. So there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think one of the main things about the league is that first and foremost is we want it to be a community where people are engaged and enjoying it. So it doesn't hurt to have people have comments about league structure and anything from contracts to drafts to anything. So. If people have thoughts or ideas, then obviously always welcome to hear them. But we've gone completely off topic on what I was going to talk about this. That's perfectly fine. Let's bring it back, because we've got John on, who's the Bills GM, and it's no more than as he said, he's a Patriots fan at heart. And what better opportunity to talk about the Patriots when we've got a fan and a GM who is in the same division. So the question I'm going to pose to both of you guys, and sit back and listen to you and hear your thoughts on this, but the Patriots are the only unbeaten team in the league now at 7-0. How long will this last? And can anyone actually beat them this year is the question.
Well, I mean, it's going to last until the next time they play the Titans, obviously. I'll go ahead and throw that out there. And it is funny, but I mean, if you look at that game, if you take out Vince Young, who's just like the master of the interception, apparently, we held Brady completely out of the end zone. So that if we could do that again, then we've got a very good chance to win. And I'm already in the process of making sure Vince never throws.
I think it's gonna come down to a divisional game. Either in next Thursday's sim, so 2 games from now, or at the end of the season. But looking at other teams, let's see, because they've got
the Seahawks next. So you probably expect them to beat the Seahawks. Then obviously you got yourself and the Bills, which will be a tough game. I mean, the other game that I'm really interested to see them play is the Jets, because I think hopefully I'm hoping and praying for Dylan's sake that the Jets sort themselves out by week 13 and they give them a good game. But I mean that schedule is it's a great opportunity for them to go unbeaten here.
Yeah, because the other thing is looking at their at the defense, they've only let 63 points. That's like everybody else is over 100.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know. I mean, you look at some of their defensive players. I mean, they have got some real talent there as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just flicking through to try and see if I can find him, but this man here, Mr. McCourtney, has just been a revelation, really, for them.
Yeah, I'm definitely a victim of his 4 interception day. So but he hasn't gotten very many since then. So he's kind of still feeding off of that. I actually have them losing 4 games. Believe it or not, I have starred on the schedule that I kind of like wrote down for myself. I have both of their games with the Bills starred, both of their games with the Jets, with their next game, both of their games with the Jets starred, and their game with the 49ers, because I think the 49ers are very sneaky good this year, and they were actually leading their division for a while. They maybe still are. I can't, not near my laptop currently, but I think that they're going to lose one of both of those, of each of those 2 games, and I think the 49ers will be their 4th loss of the season, if it's not the Titans.
Yeah, so just to quickly come in there, the 49ers are still leading their division at 5-3. The Seahawks are also 5-3. So, I mean, you could argue that they should possibly suffer a defeat to one of those teams in the National West Division, because they are going really well. And then you've obviously got the Bills we mentioned, where they're putting up a good fight for the East, even though they're just a couple of games back. I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, we know the Patriots have a really loaded roster this year, but there's going to be some tough games here. And I mean, they're playing. For me, I penciled down the Seahawks in the next game because they're on the road as well to them.
Yeah.
So this is going to be, I think, the next sort of 2 games, obviously on the road to the Seahawks, on the road to yourself, John, in the Bills. That's going to be a real good test to see whether anyone can get close to them this season.
Yeah, because pretty much like after that, other than like Bills and Jets and 49ers, you've got the Dolphins, Chiefs, and the Cardinals. I would see them win against the Dolphins, Chiefs, and Cardinals. So I'd be surprised. I'd be surprised if they went the whole season undefeated. But I would say at least 1 or 2 losses by the end of the season. But it's tough to really pick which one are they going to lose to, and how bad. Is it going to be a close loss? Because they've had some close games. They against Miami, it was 17-12. Wasn't that it came from because it was right at the oh no, the Dolphins were coming back in the 4th quarter.
Yeah, so, it was a huge comeback by the Dolphins in the end. To almost sneak it. I mean, for me, I guess it's interesting though, because you said obviously that the Dolphins kind of put up a show in the end, but there may have been rotations taken out there at that stage. But the one that I find interesting is the preseason loss to the Rams. So maybe there's something that they don't. They're not necessarily getting the right level of performance against some of these lower teams, and they have got to play the Dolphins and the Chiefs still, and the Cardinals, who are also struggling. But the Cardinals do have some talent still, so they could put up a fight. But I think it's going to be interesting, because I think for me personally, I see probably them going 13-3. I can see them definitely losing to either the Seahawks or the 49ers. and then probably losing to you in a game, and then I think the Jets will probably sneak one at home against them. So that's 3 losses I see. I can't see them going 13-3 this year.
Yeah, because more than 3 losses, that would be a dream for me.
Yeah. I mean, more than 3 losses brings you back into the hunt.
Yeah.
For that division title. So, I mean, do you really feel as obviously the Bills GM? Do you feel that 2 games that you're playing New England are the 2 games that will make or break the division this year? Because you're obviously 5-2, they're 7-0. Couple of games in it.
I would say so, because I know the mistake this week with the Ravens shutting down Peterson and Lynch to 24 rushing yards. I'm like, what?
Ooh.
But that I'm gonna definitely be changing my playbook on that one, and give them a fight.
Yeah, I mean, that 24 yards is crazy. How the Ravens did that? They must have really strategized against you to achieve that with the talent you have in the running back position. I mean,
yeah.
I think for me it's going to be interesting for the Patriots, because we've said it a couple of times on previous podcasts, but Rizzo as GM of the Patriots is still learning the engine, and there's going to come a point, I think, where he starts to click how he wants his team to play and how it's going to best perform. And then all of a sudden it's just going to explode because of the sheer volume of talent they have. I think the rest of the league is just hoping that doesn't happen this season, perfectly honest.
I think it's
if
already
it happens in a few seasons' time, that's fine. But this season, if it happens, this could be a bloodbath.
Well, I mean, it's already kind of happened. I mean, he's put up 40 like the last 3 weeks in a row. I'm pretty sure, and I mean, I know Rizzo's constantly trying to improve the team. So, I mean, I think, doomsday scenario is here. But I still even think with that, I agree with you. They're going to lose 3 or 4 games because, I mean, just it's more of attrition, too. After all these weeks, eventually some players are going to get injured and tired and fatigued. Like, I just lost 5 players on defense this week. So,
wow, yeah.
Yeah, my guy's getting banged up as well recently. I mean, I lost Peterman, I think the linebacker, to basically the season. I think he tore his hip muscle or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but I think I mean the Patriots have got a couple of guys banged up. I mean McCourtney and Brace are probably. I mean McCourtney's probably out for the next game, but he'll be back for the one after. But they haven't really got many injuries to any of their star players, so that's kind of working for them as well. And obviously, as they get towards the end of the season, they'll start resting guys, I would imagine, for the playoffs if they're already in there. But
they've got Jared Mayo's out for 4 to 6 weeks, or did you say that?
He is, he's out for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah,
but they've got. I mean, linebacker was the position that we highlighted at the beginning of the year, I think, for the Patriots, where they were slightly lacking a bit of depth once the top guys go down, because you've got obviously Goyton and Mayo, and then you're looking at chucking in someone like a Morrill into some rotation time, but that's not going to be great. But
that defense has clear holes that you can actually exploit, but that secondary was just so amazing that they're bound to get at least a turnover a game. I mean, they're very similar to the Patriots now. They just they're going to beat you in one phase of the game because they're just solid all across the board.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they are solid across the board, and I think we're kind of coming to the consensus here that the Patriots, whilst they're unbeaten at 7-0, I think we're all kind of agreeing we're expecting 3 losses from them within this season to go 13-3. Mm-hmm. It sounds like we're all kind of agreeing they are going to lose eventually probably in the next 2 weeks, and probably pick up another couple of losses through the remaining half of the season. So I guess the
Now we're giving them us against the world mentality, and they're going to go 16-0.
Yeah. Probably. We've probably just jinxed ourselves here. They're going to go 16-0 and not lose a single game all season, and we'll come back in the off season and go, "What the heck just happened?" But yeah, I guess we're all kind of in agreement then. This has been quite an easy one for us to answer. Really. The Patriots run 7-0. Is it going to continue? No, it's not. I think we all agree it's going to happen within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, because when they face the Bills, I'm going to do 100% passing. I'm going to put Lynch and Peterson at linebacker. Just messing with you guys.
Hey, little gamesmanship,
Yeah.
Which whilst we're on the topic of talking about runs and the Patriots, I'm going to come back to last week's or the week before episode where myself and Josh we said Panthers or Browns, who was going to win first. Neither of us got this right. They both won at the exact same week.
Yeah.
We completely got that wrong. So anyone who's listening today and wondering about the Patriots, I think if you're a betting person, don't bet on us because we're clearly wrong. So 16-0 for the Patriots, I think is where it's going to happen then.
I think now that we've adequately hedged our bets, we should be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we move on? If we've talked about the Patriots enough, Rizzo's happy now. We can move on. So the next one I wanted to talk to you guys on today really was the MVP and Rookie of the Year race. If I could find the right tab here. Obviously we're about halfway through the season now, just short of that, and we're in a position now where we can actually start talking about MVP races and who the players are who might come through in that. As well as the Rookie of the Year in terms of how that's looking and how that's shaping up.
League awards.
Yeah, there we go. Wrong button. Yep. There we go. So this is what the engine generates for us. I don't know how you guys feel about this and whether you agree with this these players on here or not. I know the basketball engine version, the DDS Pro Basketball, the MVP race and the All-Americans are just usually completely wrong. So should we start with MVP because that's a straightforward one. We all have got an idea for this, I think. I mean, the engine's got Roethlisberger, Bush, Rodgers, Best, and Foster at the moment. Very running back heavy. What do you guys think? Is there another player that's standing out for you at the moment?
I was surprised because most football trends towards quarterbacks these days, and that's actually I have two quarterbacks at the top of my list over the running backs. I think Reggie Bush is having a great season, but when I was looking, I would give it to Tom Brady because he's undefeated at the moment and he's thrown over 14 touchdowns, I believe is the number. So I would give it to him. Yeah, I would give it to him first. He was on my list, and my winner-up was actually Aaron Rodgers because the Packers have thrown for, I think, damn near 2,000 plus yards. I think 2,400, and he has 19 touchdowns, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, because I was going to say Brady's at the top of my list. Looking at the QB rating at 123.7. The second one in the QB ratings, Eli Manning. However, Eli Manning's only played 6 games. He's got 13 touchdowns, no interceptions in that. While Rodgers, with his 19 touchdowns, he's got 7 interceptions. But he's got plenty of yards there. So I would say Brady, and yeah, I could agree with Rodgers as like a second place guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you both in the sense that I think Brady and Rodgers are in the conversation in my head. For me, I think the MVP is Rodgers at the moment, though. I don't think it's Brady because take it into context. So we know the Green Bay Packers GM, the first 2 games of the season, he didn't have the DDS game. He was still in the process of installing it. So if you bear that in mind as well, now, I mean, the past couple of games, they've just hit a stride and are really running now. For me, he's just Rodgers. I think Rodgers' rating is only going to get better, and his stats are only going to get better now that the GM has actually got a handle on the roster and has started tweaking it. For me, the reason I'm not giving it to Brady though is yes, the Patriots are 7-0, but is that really solely just because of Brady?
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that, but I mean, at the same time, you got to someone's got to get them the ball, and he's limited his turnovers. I just think there's something to be said for being undefeated. Like it's a team effort, but he's the leader of that team, and I've kind of been always in the best player, best team for MVP type camp personally.
Yeah, and I had seen the screen. I saw 14 sacks for Rodgers, but then actually looking here at Tom Brady, he's got 17 sacks. So yeah, it's about the same.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think it's close between the two of them at the moment. I think it may come down to preference here in terms of whether you feel 7-0 Patriots, Brady's impact, whether that's enough, or whether Rodgers with probably some slightly better stats at the moment is achieving above and beyond what Brady does. And I guess the question I'm going to ask you both then is, if we're coming down on these two, if you put the Rodgers in the Patriots, would his numbers look better? And
Yes,
vice versa?
yes. I think Aaron Rodgers is yes again to being a better quarterback just in sheer like rating and skill. So I won't even make that argument. Yeah, I don't know about you, Gene, but I mean John, but yeah.
Yeah, if we put Brady in Green Bay,
Does he lift Green Bay up? That's the question I'm saying. I guess that's the thing, isn't it? If we're looking at two quarterbacks, same position, and we're saying that the 7-0 has an impact. If Brady was in the Green Bay Packers offense, would that team have a better win-loss record at the moment, or do you
I, th-
think it'd be the same?
I think you'd have to send Rizzo also to Green Bay because it's like Belichick, the
Well, hang
duo.
on. Are we really comparing Rizzo to Belichick here? Hang on. Where are we going with this?
I mean Rizzo's sitting at home going, well, are you 7-0?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's close. I think it's close, and I agree with you both. And if we come back to the awards as well, so we've talked briefly about Rodgers, Brady, and Manning a bit, but so we're kind of saying everyone on this list we don't agree with.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Apart from Rodgers. Rodgers is on there, but
yeah.
It's interesting. So it's interesting that a lot of running backs have come through in here. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, well, I'm surprised there's no wide receivers up here at all.
Yeah, because when we get to talking about some offense, I there's some guys who have some absurd yard numbers at the wide receiver position, like just in their catching yards and their return yards. So I'm surprised not to see any of the people who are leading all-purpose yards closer to the top. But I guess we know the engine heavily weighs running backs now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess it's similar in when you look at the pro basketball, and the engine really favors points. It doesn't care how efficient you get the points. If you score 28 points per game and you're shooting 30%, then you're in an MVP race in the engine. So maybe that's the same thing. It's just sheer yards and touchdowns rather than actually looking at the overall position and impact, maybe.
Yeah, I would understand that because like the engine's not going to say, hey, he did a great catch in this game, like a game defining catch or a season defining catch. They're not going to take that into consideration.
Yeah, just going off sheer numbers. There's no AI component, if you will.
Yeah. So let's move on. I think we're kind of agreeing league MVP is probably Rodgers or Brady, and it's going to be close. And looks like it's going to be close for the rest of the season. I mean, Josh, you mentioned offensive MVP, and you had a couple of guys on the list in terms of receiver positions who deserve some noise in this rather than the guys that are listed here at the moment.
Well, two of them are, represented on this podcast, but my list was Roddy White, Andre Johnson, and Calvin Johnson. All three of them have already broken 1,000 total yards, all-purpose yards, with Roddy White being the leader of the pack. He's got, I think, 1,600 total yards when you add in his return yards. And he's leading all receivers with 8 touchdowns. So, I mean, those are some stellar numbers right there. The Falcons, that team is really underperforming. They could be doing a lot better. And, my Andre Johnson, he's at about 1,200 total yards. That's only in 6 games because he missed the first 2 with turf toe. So he could be leading that too. And he's got 4 touchdowns. And I did not write down what Calvin has of touchdowns, but he's also at about 1,200 total yards. So, I mean, I'm surprised, again, not to see them on the list for, just some type of award because they're really the backbones of their teams, so to speak.
Yeah, John, did you have anyone else sort of to have a look at or consider for this?
No, I didn't get a chance to take a look at for offensive, like anything different. But like Josh said, Rodney White pretty much top of mind for offensive MVP.
Yeah, I have to agree. I had White as well. White was my clear number 1 at the moment. So, but for me, you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of he they're not doing particularly great at the minute. But I'm going around the wrong way here. They're not doing particularly great at the minute, but he's sort of the stand-up player on that team at the moment, and he's sort of been the main lead for them on the offense. So. I guess.
And he's on the trade block.
He is, yeah. So,
but I don't know where the GM is because sending him some messages. Come on.
Where are you, Falcons GM? Where are you? I've got 2 GMs on this episode who probably want him. So
yes. I was waiting to plug it for myself as well. I got one more big trade left in me. Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
And I mean, I guess the good thing is that he's still only 29 as well. So you're going to expect that sort of production from him, hopefully, through the rest of his contract years.
Yeah,
12 million is not too bad either.
Yeah, 4 years left.
Exactly. Now those guys on 4-year contracts.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about 20 million next year.
Nope.
No, and you get probably the front runner for the offensive MVP. So fantastic. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the defensive MVP award, which is, for me, I always find this one. I mean, probably because I'm fairly new to the whole American football scene, but I find this one the hardest to find a player on. I mean, I found it really hard to try and find someone who I felt is leading this at the minute. But did you guys have anyone at the moment? I mean, they've got Castillo, McGee, Dorsey, and Witherspoon here on the list. But is there anyone who's standing out for you at the moment?
I was actually I was hoping one of you would mention Witherspoon first because I didn't want to be the person to do it. But Witherspoon is having a fantastic season for me. He's leading the league in tackles. He's got passes deflected. He's forced 2 fumbles. He's got sacks. He does a bit of everything for me. And actually, I was surprised to see another one of my guys, Douglas, is actually doing really, really well this season. We're rather high up in causing turnovers on defense. And the other person I was looking at, lost his name right off the tip of my tongue. Is leading the league in pass deflections right now. Either one of you, could you pull up pass deflections for me real quick?
Can I do that through the HTML? I don't think I can I?
Yep, go to players.
Yeah.
And not players, I'm sorry, player stats. And
defense.
And there you go. And if you pull up the
Look at that! I'm finding something new out about the HTML here.
There he is. There he is, right there at the top. Brown. He is having 14 passes deflected. Oh, I'm sorry, Houston. There we are. It was Chris Houston.
Yeah. So, Houston's my guy. So I think he's having a great year. I got a great bit of value out of him. I'll plug him. It's fine. Don't worry, Josh. I'll do that. He's been exceptional for me because I felt at the beginning of the season that cornerback was going to be a real weakness for this Lions roster. But getting him in there, I think his skills he's a really pacey cornerback as well, if I remember rightly from his ratings. Yeah, his speed was 81, so he fitted my defensive model that I wanted to play really, and how I wanted it to look. But yeah, he's leading the league in pass deflections, and he's really covering. He's basically my number one option now at cornerback. So I think he's having a good season. I mean, there's another guy on here, Josh, that it's worth mentioning. I think probably Brown from the Cleveland Browns as well in terms of pass deflections. So he's leading the league now. He's not got quite as many tackles, but
it was that combination in Houston that really impressed me. 44 tackles from a corner that's a huge number, and I know it goes to speak that some other parts of your defense may be lacking, but that's just really impressive. Like he's all over your field.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess Witherspoon's the other one in terms of tackles that we mentioned. I mean, Jean, did you have anyone, or is anyone that's sort of standing out for you so far?
No, I'm sort of in the same boat as you. Like, to know the defensive players, their names and stuff. I come from like a background of like the fantasy football, so I'm more of like, you got you pick every week your Patriots defense because they're gonna get an interception or get some points for you. But I didn't really dive into the individual guys here.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, team wise, obviously, right now you got the Patriots that they have the least points against. But I just took a look at Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears, they've got 25 sacks, 12 interceptions. They've got one touchdown, defensive touchdown. And like, looking at it team wise, they would be a great pick if you had to make a defensive fantasy football pick in our league.
Yeah, I've always thought that defensive player of the year is a rather hard one to pick because like if you have a really bad team but you're just a really good player, you're going to put up absurd numbers, and the other way around, if you're playing with a fantastic defense, is it really you who's making that defense run, or is that a product of you guys just having a really great synergy and playing well together? So that one's kind of hard to pick. So I was kind of trying to look at teams where I was just seeing like standout stats. was kind of my criteria. I don't know about you guys, but that was kind of where I was left with that.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult because on defense, it's much more of a team orientated aspect, isn't it? Because if a guy misses a block or misses the play or reads it wrong or whatever, then it's going to put a guy in a compromising position. And generally, the stats on defense are where someone is in a compromising position and has to make a play, basically. So it's a difficult one. I find this MVP award really difficult to read because you can just go by the guy who's got the most tackles in Witherspoon, and he may be getting the most tackles because he's the most active on defense. He's reading everything. He's playing fantastic, but in a game engine, you don't necessarily see that. You don't know whether he's making that because the last guy and he's having to cover across, or it's really, really difficult.
I have noticed from watching my games a lot that he seems to be somehow always the last line of defense. Like if someone breaks containment and gets around or something like that, somehow he's always the person who chases them down, even though I don't think he does have the highest speed on my defense. So he's just, he is a standout player. So it's kind of nice to have one of those. I'm probably going to end up having to pay him $20 million.
One I would give for a good linebacker. Linebacker seems to be the hardest position to find, guys. I have to say, this year.
No, getting Dobbins from the Dolphins. I was ecstatic when I managed to get that trade because he's young, 78 overall, and he's 4 years. So.
Yeah. So should we move on to the rookie of the year? I mean, I'll be honest with you. Defensive rookie of the year. Let's not talk about that because I think we've just established that we can't work out on what's good and what's bad on defense.
Thank you.
So let's focus on offensive rookie of the year.
Yep.
Guys are listed here, obviously Best, Bryant, and McCoy at the moment. This one to me, I felt read as the most accurate pull through from the HTML from the league file, but I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this.
No, I'm giving it to your guy. It's Javad Best. You are trying to put your team in rebuilding mode, and he is saying, no, we are going to contend. So I mean, you can't. There's your answer for that one. Like he is single-handedly put your team on his back, and he's dragging you guys to wins. Like he's a fantastic player. If I had some more pieces, maybe I would have left for him to pair with Chris Johnson and had the fastest running back duo instead of the Johnson and Johnson team.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Josh. He would be the rookie of the year. Offensively and defensively, because we'll get rid of the defense. Although we don't want to really talk about it, but Devin McCourty does like the stats that they have from the engine. 32 tackles, 5 interceptions, and 1 defensive touchdown. That's good.
Well, yeah. I have to completely throw out the every single time 4 of those interceptions came in one game. So. That and they were all wonderful gifts from Vince Young.
So basically what you're saying, Josh, is that your team is solely responsible for Devin McCourtney's meteoric rise as a rookie.
Yes. He can if he does receive that award, he needs to send a gift basket to Vince Young because he's not going to be very happy in this offseason because I'm seriously thinking of making some moves because I don't understand that. But no, Devin is a great player, but I think he's I don't want to say overrated because God, he's a 100, basically a 100 rated cornerback, but his stats are a bit inflated.
Yeah, I mean McCourty is already probably the best cornerback in the league, so as a rookie, so that's worrying for everyone else. I just want to give a shout out to Des Bryant though from Dallas. I mean, he we've talked about Best and how well he's done, but I mean for a rookie, Des Bryant as a receiver's done pretty well as well. He's averaging some good yards.
Was recording the street with his phone.
He's getting touchdowns. He's a good building piece for Dallas. And I think he deserves a bit of a shout out in terms of that. I think he's only going to get better as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Also, he gets an honorable mention.
Yeah, I think so.
He's got the yards and the touchdown, so he's having a great year. He's just not coming near Javid Best. Like, guy's killing it.
Because when I first looked at this list of 3 guys, I was like, okay, 755 yards, then 560 yards. Then I'm like 1365. Oh, like that guy's a 7 touchdowns. Then I'm like 8 interceptions, and I'm like, oh, it's Colt McCoy. I'm like,
it is Mr. Rookie quarterback who's playing for the Browns. So
yeah,
he's going to put up numbers.
Does your team not suggest Best at receiving kicks or punts? Because I'm just like imagining if he was doing that for you already, he might be approaching 2,000 yards halfway through the season if you had him returning kicks as well. Like,
yeah, so I mean I have Megatron receiving kicks, and he's done pretty well with that. So there's no need for me to put Best in there at the moment. I'd rather just keep him as a running back at the minute and optional receiver.
You gotta pad your stats. You gotta pad your stats. Come on.
Hey, look! If I've got to pay Megatron 28 million or whatever it is, I need to pad his stats. I need to make it look like he's a good player. No, I mean, Best is having a great season, and I like you guys. I did not expect it. So, given how awful some of our offensive line is, the fact that he's still breaking through and getting good yardage is incredible, really, and it kind of proves it in the numbers, really, is that he's having a good season so far and kind of has been the main driving force along with Megatron for us being at the record we are, really, to be honest. There's not a lot more I can say about that. So shall we move on to our last topic of the episode, which is Josh has claimed the name for this. So we obviously stole this name from him and his idea. So you may remember last time that I think we were very successful. We told the Jets what to do. They went out and did it and got Brett Favre and yeah, okay, they haven't won yet, but they're making progress. So we decided to open it up, as we said on the last episode, and said, well, if you've got a team or you've got an idea or something you want us to talk about with your team, or we can help you out. We can solve your problems. And we decided to rightfully name it Down in the Trenches. Josh, good name.
Thank
First
you.
team we're going to have a look at. What's the first team we're going to look at then, Josh?
Well, the Rams was, I guess, the team that we were deciding that we are going to take a look at for this inaugural turn it Down in the Trenches, and we were going to try to focus on what we could do to help them and how we can improve what their GM is saying, a 3 to 4 year project, which I don't think is going to take that long personally. So I guess I'll start us off with saying I wrote down 5 players that are must keeps for them. Those were Chris Long, James Laurinaitis, Dami Amendola, Sam Bradford, and Craig Dahl. And that's, 5 key positions: defensive end, linebacker, wide receiver, quarterback, and free safety. And I think that those, to me, are the corner pieces of their team, and they should be sellers on everything else. And with having such a strong base, I think that if they just spent this incredible cap they're going to have on making this defense unstoppable and worked on, drafting key spots at wide receiver, I mean, I think they could do this in 2 seasons, to be completely honest. I mean, having a quarterback's, half the battle, right? And Sam Bradford's he's in his rookie season. He's only 22 and he's very highly rated. I don't know. How do you guys feel?
I like to me, like, because I think he was talking about like the defense over the last the last 5 games. Defense has allowed up a lot of points, but I think looking at the roster, there's you've mentioned Long. There's Laurinaitis. There's a couple of guys that are good.
Yeah, he's had some good safeties too.
Yeah, so I think it's maybe changing up the plays, the formations. Maybe that's changing that up could change the way the team goes. Because to me, the players you've got some players. The team's not stacked, but you've got some. Because like even on the wide receivers, the Bills don't even have anyone over 80 overall, and we can still get offense going because the wide receivers are better at the offense in the last game than the 2 running backs. So overall, it doesn't always mean it's not the end all be all.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in now. So I think when you look at this and you look at the new GM's come in, I think he's been for like 2 or 3 games now, and each game he's been blown out by 40 plus points pretty much. And that is disheartening when you come into a team and you're like, oh yeah, let's try and get some wins, let's try and make it happen. And you've got to remember, this Rams team in 2010 was awful. 2011 was awful, wasn't it? I can't remember what their record was. I think they may have only won 1 or 2 games. I mean, it was a sorry state, and they were definitely rebuilding at this time. So in terms of the roster, it's always going to be tough with a team like that, given, looking at real life and looking at how they got on. But I think you guys hit the nail on the head here. I don't think it's a 3 or 4 year rebuilding project, as the GM has said. I think when you look at the results, yes, they've lost by 40 points, but these are the teams they've played, okay? The 49ers, who are top of their division, the Seahawks, who are top of their division, second in their division, but joint with the 49ers, the Patriots, who are top of their division, and I think they've just lost the Saints. I'm going to double check what the Saints were because I can't remember. Saints are top of their division, so they've played the past 4 games. They've played top winning teams, so they're expected to lose all of those games and expected to lose by a lot by all those games. So you have to take in perspective that the big one coming up for them is the next one against the Dolphins, because they're in a similar position. They're both rebuilding teams, and then you'll get a sense of where you really fit. So that's a tough one to take as a new GM, but you have to take things in perspective. And you guys have mentioned players who they need to keep and who they need to build around, and completely agree with you on that. But I'm just going to point out a couple of things really and get your guys' opinion on it. So whilst they've got players in good positions, they've also got some depth in other positions that they can move players to acquire players of positions they need. So I mean, looking at free safety, they've got a couple of good free safeties that they don't necessarily need all of them. There's movable pieces there. Looking at the
center position, they've got 2 really good centers there.
Center position, wide receiver, they've got depth there. They don't need that many decent wide receivers. I mean, they can easily move a couple of guys here because they've got guys who I know teams are looking for players with speed at wide receiver to be in like a 3 or 4 option, and they've got guys they can move there. And running back, they've also got a bit of depth there that they can possibly move a couple of guys on, because again, I know they're trying to shop Jackson, but you can try and shop Jackson and keep Washington and Toston, and it'll probably be okay. And for me, there's a couple of positions I think they do need to address though from that. So like it pretty much 60% of the league, the linebacker position is depth is not good, and they don't have a lot of talent there. And I think, Sean, you mentioned it with setting the right plays and the right formations, because obviously some formations require more, linebackers require less, and perhaps if they tweaked that slightly, and I'll be honest, I can't remember off the top of my head what formations require less linebackers. I have to search it for it, but there are some that do that, and that might help them on the defensive end not lose as many points as they are. Mm-hmm. And then the 3 positions I've got that they need to address other than linebacker are defensive tackle, and tight end. And I think if they address those 3 positions in the offseason, this team could be a much improved franchise going forward.
Yeah, I completely agree with your assessment. I think that they do have some really strong foundational pieces. And I mean, even though he was joking, he said, what should I do? Just, let all my, 70 rated players go and just hope for the best. Like, yes, that is exactly what I would do. You're going to have almost 40 to 50 million in cap space. I mean, it only takes, I did the rough math. If he fills, 20 spots with, merry minimum guys, making about 400,000 to 500,000 a year, that's only going to cost him about 8 million. So that's still almost, over 30 million that he has, or 40 million that he has to spend in, in free agency. He could just throw out a bunch of $10 million contracts, get a bunch of, highly rated players, and, pay them the premium that the rest of us are going to be scared to pay them because we're trying to keep our rosters together. Like there's a lot of options. And I really think that it can be done in 2 seasons and not just, 3 to 4. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think just following on from that, the National West as well, I think it's not like we're looking at the American East or the National East, where you've clearly got a really good team and then some other good competing teams. The National West is quite wide open. I feel. I mean, we know the Seahawks are a talented team, and the 49ers are a good team, and the Cardinals do have some good pieces, but they, in my opinion, are underachieving this year. But looking at next year, as some of these teams start to age, they've got players who are getting older. The Rams are in a perfect spot to just take this division and just completely own it for a couple of years. If they get the rebuilding right now, make the right moves in the offseason, draft the right guys with their high draft picks that they're going to have. For me, I feel like this is probably, rather than a 3-4 season turnaround, this could be a 1-2 season turnaround, depending on how free agency goes for them.
Yeah, and I mean, not to mention training camp. Like, look at Sam Bradford. He might be the best, the most highly rated rookie quarterback, just in the file. And if he has a good training camp, he could go from being he's a high 80s. He could all of a sudden, leap to like a low, 90, mid 90s rated quarterback. And what does that do for the team? That immediately, you have a good quarterback, you're immediately contending. No matter how crappy your roster is, you can pull yourself to a 8 seed. So, I mean, wait it out, man. That's what I'm just saying. Just play the hand.
Yeah, because they can still go to if they change things around going for the rest of the season, they could make a wild card push. Not saying that they're going to go deep in just to make it into the playoffs. It's still possible because you got 9 games left.
Yeah, it's obviously still possible. I mean, you've still got the opportunity. They've won a couple of games, I believe, and there's still a chance there. And I guess the key thing is that when you look at a rebuilding team, what are the key things that you always need? You need to make sure you have a quarterback who you know is going to be good and be effective for you. Check, Rams have that. You need a number 1 wide receiver. Check, Rams have that. You need a solid running back. Okay, they've got Jackson. They probably will Washington or Toston probably be the final option. Probably not. They might need to address that. And then, looking for that, you need probably a leading linebacker, which they've got. You need good safeties. They've got that. Then you need to obviously think about the offense and defensive line, and they do. On the offensive line, they have a couple of guys. On the defensive line, they already have a couple of guys. So
it's just
for me, it's just a couple of positions they need.
Yeah, it's just plugging holes on them. And I think that looking at the price that some of my offensive linemen have asked for, my suggestion would be for him to focus on rebuilding the offensive line through the draft, and to spend all that money on defense. Like, there's just absolute studs hitting the free agency this year in defense, and they're going to be right there for the picking with all these lower teams that have a ton of cap space.
Yeah, so I think what we're saying is, it's the Rams, whilst it looks bleak at the minute, when you look at the teams they've recently played, teams who are expected to be in the playoffs and expected to be really good and to be competing for championships, when you take that in perspective and you look at the actual roster and you look at how they've done against some of the teams who they should be competing around, the Panthers and, us, the Lions, and, even the Falcons, they were a couple of touchdowns down in the end, but it wasn't that bad. The situation is not as bad as it initially seems, I think is what we're saying. And, the draft coming up, there's going to be some good players in there they can probably get. Free agency is a huge one this year because there's going to be a whole host of players available, as we know, because of contract demands. It's just about getting your scouting right, targeting the players in free agency and thinking about who you want and building from there, I think is what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think any situation could be turned around. I personally like a challenge. That's why, for people who don't know, I'm one of the people that came from the basketball side of the CSL. And, we knew about this before they opened it up for everyone else to get teams. So we kind of had, first swing at it. And knowing that it was 2010, I had many. I had the opportunity to take a significantly better roster, and I chose to take the Titans because I knew it would be a challenge. And in 2011 was our last hurrah at making a playoff, and we haven't made a playoff since. So this is a good opportunity for me to show that I could be a better GM than our horrible one back then. So take the challenge. Take the challenge.
Yeah. Go on, John. Go on, John.
I was just gonna say, yeah, just stick in there, keep your head down, and things will, you gotta work with it, but things will happen.
Yeah, I agree exactly what you're both saying. I think enjoy the challenge, because that's the main reason I think why I join online leagues like this and are involved in them, is because you want the challenge of competing against other human GMs, not just the AI in the game that's often very easy to win against. And that's the challenge, isn't it? And I think there's also the other aspect that if the Rams turn around, he does a great job. I think we'll be the first ones to say, "Oh my goodness, what a great job the Rams GM has done with turning around that franchise." And that means, for me, that is going to mean so much more than just winning championships on a single player.
This is how you build your legend.
Exactly. You build it up, and who knows? You might become the next Belichick of the CSFL, and it won't be Rizzo. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. No, you're talking to Belichick right now.
Hey, that's I was actually thinking. I was like, between yourself and V Gorilla, though, you guys are, you have some prior experience with the engine, and it shows. And I personally, I take that as even more of a challenge, because on the CSL side, when I joined, there's, if you guys are ever interested in joining our basketball league, please look at it. We've got some teams that have been contending since the league was founded, and their GMs are just known as just incredibly smart and intelligent guys. And this is your opportunity, if you're in the CSLFL, to be known as one of those GMs that can negotiate anybody under the table, or can just rebuild anything. Will just trade their entire team away, but somehow have a contender every single season. Like, some people are going to build up some people are going to build up reputations like that, and this is our opportunity for us all to do that. So take it and have fun with it.
But yeah, that's actually one point from the last episode. You guys were talking about that, and I was like my listening, and my ego was just like I was like on a different cloud or something, and I was like these guys don't even know. Like, I just got the game. Like, I don't have more experience than like the other managers on this engine, but like you guys, like I've played in other leagues on other games, so I know when I first started, yeah, you'd get bidden in a trade. Now I know how to play the game. So, but I don't know insights into the engine.
No, but there is nothing more satisfying in an online league like this.
Yeah.
And outfoxing another GM in a game, in a playoff series, who has been, that team has been a favorite. They've really traded to win a championship, or they're really going for it, and you've just managed to outplay them and out-strategize them. And that's the fun of it, isn't it? Because then it builds up the rivalries, and they want to beat you next season.
Yeah.
And we're in the first season, so we haven't got to that stage yet. But that's the thing I'm really looking forward to, is that those rivalries building up, and where a GM wants to get one over because he beat him last season, and it's going to be great. And with the Rams in particular, if they're 2-5, if they turn around next season, they're 0.50, or they win 3 or 4 5 more games than last season, then team players are going to recognize that, and GMs are going to recognize that, and going to recognize it and say what a fantastic job they've done. And that's the challenge.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a destiny, but it's the journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Enjoy the journey.
Yeah, It is. It's a journey, and we're in the first season, so it's all still to play for. No one has won anything yet, so who knows what's going to happen?
Nope.
And when you're down in the trenches like this, Josh, and then Sean, it's a challenge, and we'll try and solve those challenges for you in the episodes as we come through. So if you do have something or an idea, or you just want us to talk about your team for 25 minutes, we'll talk about how you're like Belichick, then yeah, we'll do it, and we'll certainly do it going forward, and we'll look at it. Yeah. Sean, Josh, it's been great to have you guys on to get your thoughts. Best of luck with the rest of the season. I'm hoping on Sunday that we all come out as winners and not losers like we did on Thursday.
Yes.
That would be great. I'm also glad that none of us play each other, so there is actual chance for that to come true.
and in addition to that, I want to win next Thursday against Rizzo.
Absolutely.
And here's to the Titans making it through a game where Vince Young doesn't throw an interception. I'll even take a Kerry Collins interception at this point, just to get just some variety, just change your pace.
Yeah.
This man threw 6 passes in both games and managed to get one of those 6 passes. His only incompletion was an interception, and in the last game, his only 2 incompletions were interceptions. So you know what? He's either throwing great passes or picks. You're just not throwing anymore.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Best of luck on Sunday, guys.
All right. Thanks a lot for having me.